continue to work through those issues. But at the same time, I don't see the U.S. as having a direct role in mediating their core dispute of Kashmir. I think this is an issue that the two countries themselves need to figure out how they can move forward. But in terms of Nepal's role, I think India would be looking toward Nepal to ensure that no militants are able to find any safe haven or sanctuary or move across the borders into India. That is India's major concern.
Well, you are considered an expert in regional security in South Asia. You may be aware that drugs and weapons trafficking are happening heavily in the region, taking advantage of the long open border between Nepal and India, which is infamous for being porous. WikiLeaks has also mentioned that Lashkar-e-Toiba has made Nepal one of its safe havens. In your assessment, how big this is a problem?
Well, I think this is one of the major issues between India and Nepal is the open border issue, and not only militants who might be going into Kashmir, but obviously Maoists who might be supplying arms to the Naxalite movement in central and in western India. This is a growing problem for India. We've seen the Naxals spreading throughout these parts of India, and you even had major incidents where dozens of police officers have been ambushed and killed, and even Prime Minister Singh has recently said the most critical threat to Indian security right now is the Naxal movement.
Yes.
So I think that would be a priority issue for India, is making sure that no weapons are coming into these groups, and that there are no linkages between some of the left-wing extremists in Nepal, that they're not having contact with those in India. And that is a major concern from the Indian perspective.
Okay. You have also analyzed the economic dimensions of South Asia. Many analysts say that India is the future of economic growth in the region. How do you see India's rise as an economic power affecting regional growth and prosperity, and how the countries like Nepal benefit from the progress of our neighbors like India and China?
Well, I think one of the most significant developments in Asia over the last few years is the story of India's economic rise. India has seen phenomenal growth, stands to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world, potentially, and really India can be the engine of economic growth in all of South Asia. And I think that the rest of the South Asian nations can actually benefit from India's rise. And so I see Nepal fitting into that mold. And as more and more Indians raise their per capita incomes, as more investment comes into India, that can also have a positive impact on Nepal. Some of those business ties and relationships spilling into Nepal, and some of that economic benefit also accruing to Nepal in terms of stronger India-Nepal economic ties, whether it be in energy or just trade, increased trade. So I really see Nepal reaping the benefits of India's economic prosperity. And of course, as India's economic situation takes off, they will be more influential politically and in multilateral forums, and that can also be to Nepal's benefit, bringing more attention to South Asia in general. And so I really see it as a positive for the rest of the South Asian nations.
There is one institute called National Democratic Institute, which is liberal to the Democratic Party, I guess. It has its own network of building democracies and prospering them, or helping prosper democracies in other democratic countries. And Nepal also has one of its brands called the National Democratic Institute Nepal, and it has been helping capacity building and then leadership building for the leadership training or something like that. So does Heritage Foundation have any plans to introduce similar kind of institutes, because Nepal and other countries where democracy is struggling and trying to transition, any plans like that?
Well, the Heritage Foundation is a research institute, whereas the National Democratic Institute that you're talking about is a grant-making authority. In other words, they actually fund programs to support political party development, democracy building at the grassroots. That's not the kind of work that Heritage Foundation does. We mainly do research, providing the public with information, U.S. policies toward different countries. Of course, we also do work on domestic issues, but my focus, of course, is on foreign policy. So, I think the Heritage Foundation would be interested in looking at the consolidation of the peace process in Nepal, the development of democracy. We're extremely interested in supporting policies that promote democratic development throughout the world. We think that's important, not only for the people of these countries to realize their right to freedom and liberty, but also from a national security perspective. The U.S. tends to have better relationships with countries that are democracies and providing freedom for their people. So, certainly the Heritage Foundation is interested in what's happening in Nepal.
But I would understand that Heritage Foundation has more of a significant role in lobbying democratic nations to push the agendas in the parliament, so that the U.S. government assistance could be increased in maintaining and in increasing the democratic movements in the countries.
Well, we do work very closely with Congress, whether it's providing our web memos, which are, commentary, which focuses on fast-breaking developments. We provide that to the Congress, and that can help, provide them information on issues of interest, or backgrounders, which are, we provide more in-depth research to particular issues. We're called to testify. We follow legislation now as we're a nonpartisan, bipartisan think tank. So we're non-government. So we don't provide specific support to legislation. However, we do comment on policies that affect legislation. So yes, if there are particular issues that come up related to Nepal, whether it be military assistance, those kind of issues, certainly we would be interacting with the staff of the legislative committees and providing our input and analysis on those issues.
Finally, let me end with a personal note. You visited Nepal as a tourist, you said, in 1995 and 97. Nepal is observing 2011 as Visit Nepal year 2011. Do you plan to visit Nepal to promote tourism in Nepal this year?
I don't have any immediate plans, but I certainly would consider it, and would thoroughly enjoyed my trips to Nepal, and would love to visit again and take advantage of the opportunities for the trekking and see the beautiful Nepali landscape.
These are all my questions to you, Ms. Curtis. Thank you for accepting our invitation and putting forward your thoughts.
Well, thank you for coming to the Heritage Foundation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you have a good day.